Last split, you said your hashtag would be WayIsBae. What would mine be?
The hashtag would be duo with Goodo.
Oh,
Because all I want to do is just duo with you. But you never want to duo with me for some reason. So, F you, man.
Okay. If you woke up one morning as a league champion, who do you want to be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I'd have to be Twisted Fate. Just like the ult is just like too cool.
Yeah.
I can go anywhere I want.
Yeah, true.
Which player do you want to jungle gap the most?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's definitely Bobby.
Okay.
Yeah, Bobby and Padu. And also Kevi. I think 3 of them is the top jungler in LCO right now, but I want to break the Bobby because he's back from the NA, and he was the most performance in the last few years. So I want to jungle gap the Bobby.
We've just won a match, and your camera is being shown. How are you reacting?
Oh, I would like.
Let's go.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah, let's go. Let's go, team.
I too want to jungle gap Babip, but I don't think it's going to happen. Not for a very long time. I think I'm past my prime of being able to micro up a storm. I'm too old now. So here we are. Now I'm just talking about players who still have the skills to make it happen here on the DoorDash LCO. 2 of which were Goodo and Way, bringing you that golden content, the second part of the series there from the Mammoth content. So any takeaways from that one, boys, before we move into match number 3 of the evening?
Bit one-sided with the love is what I was getting on that one. Goodo, pretty casual guy, just taking it one step at a time, and Way's just vying for his attention. That's what I got from that content.
That's what you want. It's really what you want. What about you, Skimmy? Anything in particular that stood out? Did you want to be Twisted Fate as well?
No, I think I'd want to be like Seraphine. Hey, just be an international superstar. You know, if your hands stop working, at least you can start singing, right? So you're gonna be a Smurf when your mates invite you out for karaoke. You're gonna be a Smurf because everybody just wants to hear you sing. You're never a good time. You're just gonna be that entertaining friend. Plus, you look good. So, who wouldn't want to be that?
It's just what you need. It's what you want in your life, you know. And it's one of those things that hopefully we can make happen at some point. But something that we can make happen is Legacy and Pentanet coming up very shortly now, in fact. So let's have a quick chat about Legacy first. So far, no good. 0-3 on the table, but we've liked some of the things we've seen from them. Not too sure about yesterday. Rusty, you were there on the sidelines watching Incursio playing Aatrox at mid. What are your thoughts on that? And then tell me what else you think about the team.
Yeah, I think Legacy have gone for... So the Aatrox mid was a wild card choice. It was into a Lee Sin. It was something that's meant to just survive the lane perfectly fine. Actually, in fact, there's a lot of times where an Aatrox can handle a Lee Sin with a pretty high degree of success. At the end of the day, I think what Legacy have gone for with their draft in the last game was something that we've seen a lot of internationally. I think they had a decent read on draft. The Aatrox was just the wild card pick. Lulu being flexed to top, enabling something like a Braum has been seen in the rest of the world. It opens up a couple of cool little opportunities there for draft gaps in bottom lane. But at the end of the day, they were up against, the Blitzcranks and some wild cards from the Chiefs and just got a little bit outclassed later on. But, Legacy, like you mentioned, there's promise. It's just not being utilized well enough to actually get a W on the board yet.
Well, speaking of W's, Pentanet has 2 of them. So let's talk Pentanet. Skimmy, tell me why Pentanet are one of the greatest teams in the league and why they've got 1 L on the board.
Well, they're a team that, as Charlie basically said, it'd be too easy if we played what we're already good at. So they're basically taking the long season to say, let's learn other stuff. Let's take the practice from overseas, bring that here and say, all right, how does that work? Because then they do go a few months down the line into playoffs, then they're going to be thinking, okay, cool, we can play this style, we can do this. You can't really ban us out, which some teams and players can feel susceptible to, but up against Peace, it's always going to be a bit of a 50-50, see how some of their best of series have gone in the past. But, as a whole, they're a team with the experience, they're a team with the confidence, charisma. I mean, it all just comes together seamlessly, so it's a bit of a yin and yang between the two.
It just seems like it's going to be one of those seasons for them where everything just falls in place and they're pretty much just going to be able to test their limits, try to learn a thing or two, and hopefully teach all the other teams in the league a thing or two as well. Let's see if Legacy is going to be one of those teams or not. But we do have a whole lot to talk about and a whole lot of players to talk to as well. So we do have Nat down on the side lanes with 2 ready to go individuals. Nat, who do you have for the interview for the pre-match here in game number 3 of the day?
I've dragged in Winterer and Decoy to join me for the pre-game interview. Thank you both so much for joining me. Winterer, I want to ask, you guys are still chasing your first win. So how much would a win tonight mean for you and the team?
Well, it'll be a really good opportunity if we can win today's game. If we can pull out the best team in LCO right now, then we can continue our win streaks.
I mean, it's very possible. Decoy, I didn't get to talk to you personally yesterday after the Mammoth game, but how rough was bot lane for you? Because it did seem a little bit hard in the laning phase.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a bot gap that game. Thankfully, our team dragged us across the finish line. Yeah, that was like a really shit game from us, and yeah, I wasn't very happy with it. So hopefully today's game will be a lot better.
What are you going to be looking at changing up or focusing on to have a better laning phase?
Just not inting, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the first couple minutes we definitely played lane really poorly, and it kind of snowballed after that. So yeah, just learn from your mistakes and yeah, move on. Hopefully play better today.
Winter, for you, what is going to be your focus up there in top to try and maybe top gap Bio?
Well, it's going to be really difficult to gap Bio because he's the best laner in Oceania right now. I think the focus is on that green hair guy to do something. If the green hair guy wins, we win.
I love it so much. I also want to just ask a more broader question of how are you performing, you and the team performing, compared to your expectations so far?
I think we've been performing really poorly, but I think I'm performing really good compared to my other teammates. So I'll try carry my teammates.
Well, look, with that confidence, maybe you can gap Bio. Who knows? Last question goes to you, Decoy. How have you guys been going for scrims and practicing, bringing over and implementing new playstyles that you guys learn overseas?
I'm not gonna lie, scrims have not been going too well. Yeah, we've been struggling quite a lot implementing all of the new stuff we're trying to bring to the table. But yeah, it's just trusting the process. Last split, scrims didn't go that well at times. Yeah, so last split, our scrims didn't go too well either, but we ended up winning. So yeah, we just trust the process.
Yeah, this may very well be a trust the process sort of game, but I'll let you both go to get ready. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Yasa.
Yoza, hey?
Yoza.
There you go. So, good to hear from the horse's mouth that sometimes things don't go well in practice, but you do get the takeaways that can help you win on stage. And Pensionet very good at a team that's winning on stage, even on the world stage. So, they are certainly one of the titans of the DoorDash LCO this split. Let's see if Legacy can stand up to them today. And let's see what our thoughts are on that as well. So we do have the predictions ready. And we got it sorted as well. Your boy Mac is listening to chat. So when you do your Twitch predictions, that will be my prediction for the rest of the split. So you can predict for who you think the winner is going to be, or you can predict who you think the loser is going to be.
I can't believe
I don't know which way you
production
want to do it.
has given you the easiest job of the whole split. You don't have to do a single prediction anymore.
He just hypes up the
That's
match.
amazing.
This is
You
also
just
good
get
for
to
them
sit
though.
there
They
and-
never have to change logos for Max prediction. It's just always going to be Twitch logo
It's
now.
true, but he's also going to get a lot more of these correct now. Because remember that
Then what if he was picking?
because he was actively picking underdogs in every game.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
I
that's what
started
it
that today and only got one game worth of it, and then it sort of went out the window. But I, as a esporter, esports enthusiast, was born in the Twitch chat. I was bred in the Twitch chat, and I'm letting Twitch chat make my decisions for me now. So I think it's only fair. Now, that brings us one step closer to the game. Does anyone here on the panel think that there is going to be a Katarina let into the game today? Because I would love to see it. I'd honestly love to see it.
Absolutely not. I
No?
think they learnt their lesson so much from Split 1. They were absolutely, okay, not absolutely, but they were definitely egoing on Legacy. Let it through. Probably the roughest game they had in Split 1.
Okay. Well,
Up until they
definitely.
picked a Moo.
True. Yeah,
Ooh,
true.
well, that happened. That certainly happened. Anyway, something else that's happening is the game. Apparently, Champ Select's ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't hold your pants up too much longer. You know, kick your socks off and legs up, and
Okay.
you know, just do what Skimmy does and just get comfortable. I'm
I'm
really
comfortable.
uncomfortable saying all these words at the moment, so I'm gonna just disappear. Bye.
Well, with that weird little segue, we somehow, Rusty, find ourselves in a Champion Select.
Yep. Let's talk about video games, shall we? Not
Yes.
articles of clothing. Take it away.
Well, one thing I want to talk about, which is really interesting for me, is both these teams have played the Brom bot lane and the Lulu top lane, right? They've been the only two teams that have tried to play this style. Pentnet admittedly said that afterwards, we didn't really play the macro too well. Legacy kind of fell apart when, especially Kiss, they had that insane lead in mid lane. The rest of the team just weren't able to facilitate as a result. So it's almost like they're taking a notebook out of each other. They've obviously gone for the ban away on the Lulu and the Karma, so removing a lot of the initiation potential. Pentnet then removing a lot of these assassin threats. And as we're blitzing through this draft here, Legacy have locked in the Varus, guarantee that with the red carpet in the Equalizer, and give him a fresh, just a little bit of safety as an emergency plan.
Yeah, Thresh often denies the Leona or makes the Leona pick losing if they go for that in bottom lane here as well for Pentanet.gg. You could actually, like, realistically, if they wanted, they could go for like the Tahm Kench and just play just Goomba chill in bot lane, just weak side Ezreal Tahm Kench, no issues at all. We'll see where they choose to go if support is the priority pick. And yeah, it's not going to be the route of going for the Leonas that was denied.
Yep.
They are still going to go for an engaged support champion. So right now, Varus Thresh bot lane. Varus gets enabled pretty heavily, Skimmy, by having the Thresh lanterns there, similar to a lot of champions with low mobility. And they have a really good mid-game already with the draft that they have, Legacy.
They certainly do. On the flip side, though, if you look at Pensnet, I'm pretty sure Biopepper doesn't need any introduction to what this set does. You saw the setups on the biggest stage, right? We've got them Praetor playing the Ezreal. He's only played it once. He played that yesterday, given that the meta is facilitating it right now, but kind of got gapped there by Frost on the Varus, which is his lane matchup again. So looking to practice that champion a little bit more. Interesting to see how then Pensnet navigate this as it progresses, because the Yona's been denied on their end, and the Silas from Legacy. So a bit of a target towards Incursio.
Yeah, and I don't know if we did mention Katarina was there, but Katarina and Yone are going to be taken away. And this is the standard, right, into drafting against Legacy, while it is actually available, everybody, so don't get too excited just yet. Hold on to the excitement a little bit.
You might. It's possible.
It's there. Don't know what will be picked into it, though, Skimmy, and that's the thing. If you're blue side Legacy, if you pick, let's say you want the Katarina, it's completely blind. So that in itself is a bit of an int. But last time we gave him the champion, it works out. It just always works out.
It really does. So I think there's a few players with their comfort picks that'll just pick it regardless of the matchup, just because they know how to pilot it in pretty much any matchup. The mastery is unbelievable. But there we're going to go. We have another Diana pick, which you'd have to imagine would be here for Pabu in the jungle, looking to lock members in place and throw their own little bit of a wombo combo. If Legacy are doing it again with theirs, they'll be looking to do it in quick fashion themselves. There's going to be a Jace. Now, there was once upon a time when Sybil did a lane swap and he played that, but given he's in the jungle, it may just be Winter instead.
Well, it'll at least be Hovered, because ML is a giant memer. So don't hold your breath yet. You could see them laughing. But a classic ML. Here we go.
Not going to be a team, Oh!
Okay, then we'll do it.
Okay.
My ears hurt from someone yelling. Katarina's going to be locked in. Now, the interesting thing with this pick, Skimmy, is that the crowd control on their composition exists solely around their bottom lane. Now, they put a Jace with the Katarina. So what they have is damage and not a lot else.
Certainly don't. Bear in mind the last time this did get let through was against Pentanet, and Incursio played into Chaz as a Tristana. In that composition, there wasn't as much CC.
I think this is actually expected what they've gone for here. So they've flexed the set towards mid lane. They've actually gone for a Gragas top. Gragas can handle the Jace pretty well, has a lot of sustain built in from his passive, and you can't really hammer form as Jace. You get punished each time you do it. And Jace often, depending on his build, of course, wants to be in mana form, melee form as much as he can for the mana regen on auto attacks in melee form. So Gragas is not the worst choice there. as Incursio comes into focus. He will be as we get into the game as well, because it is an Ignite teleport Katarina, and I don't expect that to change.
No, I can't imagine so too. You saw what it did yesterday for Claire on the Gwen when he just had the lane dominance, and sure, no flash, but it just meant that you were just outright winning trades, right? Even if it wasn't the kill, you were asserting yourself as a mainstay in that lane to guarantee tempo, cheater recalls, all the rest of it. So I'm excited, right? You know, we talk about what happened last time this pick was played. Incursio, sure, the result went against Legacy as a whole, but he definitely had some fancy feet to cause a few Pentanet fans, even the players themselves, I'm sure, a few cold sweats, wondering, how on earth have we let this through? Got perma-banned ever since, but I guess a new season and a new chance to showcase once again why it should be perma-banned.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Skimmy, but on social media last night before the games, there was a tweet saying, will Incursio get Katarina? And Charlie, coach of Pentanet, said absolutely not. And Midlord, Draft Lord himself, agreed with that sentiment. It just should not be allowed. Do not give Incursio Katarina. And here we are.
Here we are. An interesting turn of events, that's to say the least. Legacy taking a bit of a page out of what they tried to do up against Gravitas. That heart-wrenching game where Safa 1v9 and let the minions end the game. But in that game, bear in mind, Star did finish at 11-2 on this Varus. And they had it with the Sybil Rumble too. So looking to try and get off to a better start and ultimately a victory scream. But Pentanet will have something to say of their own. They've got themselves an interesting draft here and had to throw the curveball knowing that they're going into a Katarina. And here to try and help explain some of these interesting decisions, we do have the coach from Legacy in series. Mate, first and foremost, tell me about this Katarina. How on earth has this come through?
Well, I don't know, eh? So, obviously we had not a conversation, but there were some tweets last night about how they're definitely not going to let it through. So I guess I should go ahead and just shout out Charlie Ray. Thanks for letting us have it. But yeah, it's obviously his pick. It's the most banned champion against us. They let it through the first time that we played against them. They didn't let it through again. And you know, there's a reason for it. It's because like there's a lot of pressure. If you make one mistake, then the champion can just pop off and rinse a team fight. It's very high execution from their part in that sense. They're really not allowed to make mistakes because we can punish it really, really hard.
Yeah, and I suppose my next point then being, you know, it's not been the best start to the season, right? 0-3, never going to feel good. Right. Is there a point in the season or a point in internal discussions where you say, you know, momentum is important, we need to try and change something up, whether that be drastically like a Katarina coming in here, or is it a case of, you know, much like the phrase, you know, trust the process, just stick to what we're doing, we've got our own ideas, you know, that win will eventually come?
Yeah, I think that it is unfortunate that the games that we had played and the ones that we lost were very critical, right? They're against Order and Gravitas, who are kind of sitting in the middle of the table and very, very important in terms of moving into playoffs. But I would still say, in spite of that, that yeah, we should be trusting the process. We can see, at the very least in scrims, steady improvement. We still make really, really silly decisions that can just ruin games. And sort of curbing that and just playing the way that we know how, letting ourselves get sucked up too much in the moment, in the heat of the moment, is the way to go. So, yeah, for sure, trust the process, going strong.
Yeah, because I suppose to follow that, then it's a case of, you know, much longer season compared to Split 1, and whether or not, you know, players start to feel the burden of, well, this is what we're doing, this is what we want, it's just not playing out. Is there a way to tangibly find the lessons that you're learning from these games? Because a lot of these have been, sure, a bit of chaos at times with skirmishes and fights happening all over the show, but have there been any key lessons that you're taking away to say, look, you know, these are the drafts we're going for, this is what we're playing for, this is the reason why, but, you know, these are certain areas that we need to be focusing on to try and capitalize better?
Yeah, absolutely. The real issue surrounding taking a focused approach in terms of just like champions that we're picking is that the meta itself is evolving. You know, next patch that we're coming into, we should expect to see a completely different game. So we're trying to focus in on styles more than anything else that we can sort of transfer from patch to patch and come out on top in the next one.
Beautiful. All right, mate. Well, we'll see how this game plays out. I wish you guys the best luck as always. And until next time,
Thank you, Skimmy. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Rusty, we crack on into this one. I suppose, yeah, much like you said yourself, thank you, Charlie, for the free pick on towards that Katarina, and pretty much doesn't really care what the draft is. Incursio's always keen to pilot it.
Yeah, so there was a couple of things that stood out to me just before we take stock of the game as well, because it has been a pretty reserved start to this one, just a slight CS. Okay, never mind, I shouldn't have said anything. They're going to fight straight away. But the point that was made by Sirius in the interview was that it's execution based on Pentanet, right? To punish the Katarina, because if she slips through the cracks in a team fight, it could be a pentakill, which is just Katarina in a nutshell.
Sure.
But when you look at the composition that Pentanet.gg have for themselves, they have a Nautilus, they have a set with the face breaker, Diana's ultimate, of course, and Gragas with a zone of control with body slam and all. And this is all pretty close range, high zone of control type of abilities that a Katarina can't even get near. So as long as they hold one of those, then what exactly is it that a Katarina can do in a team fight? There's the risk of the execution actually being on perhaps the legacy side of the coin, not the Pentanet.gg side. Literally just don't use all of your spells, save one, and Katarina can't get in the fight, is the idea.
Yeah, and it feels interesting because I suppose I draw inspiration from the game we saw different teams, but when Divals were playing and they had the idea of, a Gwen that could just, completely cancel with a standard ability, a Karthus ultimate, or the ability for Shock Sakali just to go into the mist and cancel out Zed. Much the same needs to be done to respect this Katarina, otherwise things like this may just happen where Chaz gets low, the Ignite goes out, the Grit is evaporating, and he's just going to fall down! Because that's a shock blast from downtown as Winter rocks up with the TP and guarantees that, yes, I am playing well, and I will carry this.
Yeah, Winter with a better reset timing there more than Biopanther with 0 mana on this Gragas who has to go back to base right now. So that is a pretty significant difference that will be able to net Legacy their first blood. Now, it's not the Ignite that secures it for the Katarina. Unfortunately, the Electro Harpoon goes a little bit wide there from Sybil. But thankfully for them, Winter on duty is going to be nearby to make sure that does happen. Now, the teleport will be responded by Chaz, however. As he gets to mid, still has his Iron Spike, Whip, Power Spike, is level 6. And this is still a good moment overall for Pentanet.gg. It's just that the kill goes the way of Winter.
I'll talk about how Jaces need to get ahead and how they can't afford to play passively. Well, Winter's going to be quite content with any advantage he finds at the moment because he's up in CS now with a kill. Going to be happy days for him to stack away with the cooldowns blasting for the tier to hit the power spike of 360. The first dragon goes against them as Pentanet will capitalize on those reset time as you were mentioning and pick up an Infernal.
So we didn't mention this because I went on the tangent about Katarina and execution, but bot lane's been just winning in terms of farm. The Ezreal had a pretty significant CS advantage. There was a cheater recall, I believe, from Styled, which gets them back here, but still they're behind in farm. Mid lane definitely has a difference in farm. Jungle, just a more efficient path from Parbu, knowing that he was going to full clear. Did his own Krugs and then took the enemy Krug camp, so had an advantage there overall. Top lane's the only place that has really been losing from the side of PGG, and that's just because it is a Gragas into a Jace, right? Melee into a ranged champion, and not on the strong side of the map as Parbu started red and left him. So I think overall, killer side, things have gone exactly as expected, and even with that kill in account, things still pretty good here for the side of Pentanet.gg. It's just that there is that extra little bit of strength that will exist for the top lane.
Certainly is indeed there, Rusty. Getting myself a little bit excited there as I see the wall go out from Sybil and Harpoon across the walls, seeking an opportunity to try and hit that equalizer. Just zoning, letting PGG know that he's in the area, trying to buffer a bit of time for Start to farm up. There goes the ultimate. Praetor fell down to this yesterday. They've fallen down to it again. He's just dead and gone, and it's a double kill for a roaming Sybil.
I mean, that's just a clean double as well. The equalizer was perfect, just cooks them. Praetor with no heal, because he has, of course, gone for the cleanse into the Varus Thresh. Makes sense, but it's not going to save him from the damage that a Rumble's able to do. And now Sybil, 2-0 with his Dark Seal with 5 stacks already. Absolutely living the esports dream is the Rumble right now in the jungle.
That's fantastic. What a start, and this is what we love to see from Legacy. We've hyped them up as a team that can do so much in the early game, and so far the split definitely has worked against them, but much more akin to what we know them for. This is the identity they built upon this year. And they find themselves in a very happy position now.
I mean, most definitely do. Of course, the difference in the jungle farm no longer really matters as those 2 kills help to equalize that one as well. A bit of extra experience perhaps in the hands of Parbu, yes, but Rumble being level 6 is what matters. It's just going to be hovering bot lane right now, it looks like, just in case there was any return attempts from the side of Legacy. And still overall, control of bottom lane in the hands of Praetor and Decoy. A bit of freedom to move and roam here. But the action for Legacy is on the other side of the map.
Yes, they're going to take their chance to pick this one apart as BioPanther went for the reset, and their own bot lane of Legacy is stuck underneath the turret. So mid lane free, and Kursu can help out Sybil here, who's got a fair bit of damage now. He actually had the Dark Seal when that fight took place, already 5 stacks on that, which is massive. And now with the Herald to boot as well, a lot of gold that he can just choose to position any way he likes and continue to snowball this gold lead in their favor.
I think next steps here is definitely a Drake fight, potentially. I know that the Cloud Drake itself isn't actually that important, but when you've got the Rumble with Ultimate ready, it could definitely be a point that you would consider fighting. You would then be able to keep your bot lane recruited. There's no Herald, obviously, to flip the map for now.
Yeah.
And you do really, like, if you're going to team fight, you want the Varus and the Thresh to be there, I think, or your comp's just not going to have anything to follow up the damage, or even set up the damage in the first place. So I would say Dragon would be a point that Legacy will just try and actually stomp their feet at and say, you know, if Pentanet want to fight us here, we'll take them on.
And I'm curious because of the conflicting styles known at Pentanet. Have had to try and adapt a little bit. We saw how they got punished at MSI with early games going against them. We'd always sort of harped on them, at least in the Peace versus Pentanet comparison, that they were a team that loved to play for the mid to late. And now that we see Legacy with a lead in the early game, how do Pentanet look to try and play this one, right? Do they look to do the characteristic slowdown of the game, wait for an item or two, just to, you know, decide we're going to go for the fight? I mean, you can see what the fans think. The odds are stacked against them, but Legacy are going to push their momentum 10 minutes into this one. They haven't found a kill on the bot lane just yet, but they've definitely got assists. And now that means the first turret of the game will go the way of Legacy.
So 91% of Twitch chatters have decided that Mac's prediction could be wrong. How do you like that one, Mac? What if you're stuck with the underdogs, eh? So far, so good from Legacy. I think with this tower going down as well, that gold lead has actually ballooned.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where you could say out of control, particularly through, you know, the Varus, the Rumble, and now the Dragon should be all but secured. Of course, you can see that Pentanet are going to move to the area as the resets were required from Legacy. No teleport for Winter for the next 5 to 10 seconds, so that could be a thing to wait for, and Pentanet do not want to wait.
Certainly don't. The snowball potential, the bling bling duo between Sybil and Curcio, 2 rings. They are looking good, but they want some stacks. They want to try and evolve that if they can into Magi's, if the game allows it to do so. And Pentanet will say, well, if you're winning the game in that fashion, then we're just going to play for a soul point. So very polarizing systems of what seems to be working. Siege and skirmishes versus the cool, calm, measured nature we've come to love and learn of Pentanet. And yeah, as we kind of wondered if they would just play at the time.
That was really sad last inning. I don't know if you saw much of that one, Skibby, but that hurt my soul. The very core. He missed the cat, he missed a bunch of minions afterwards. Just not it.
It's a -1 in chat, isn't it? A minion lost, a minion missed.
It's a couple of Fs that have to be put in there for sure. Also, we have got those mythics. So one thing for that Drake fight, if it was forced, Pentanet.gg did actually have a proto belt done from the Diana, so they did actually have a pretty big point of power. When that's now going to be matched with the Night Harvester from Sybil and the Eclipse from Winter. So hitting those big spikes themselves and definitely getting in ahead of their opponents in some respects. Could be poised to maybe look for a team fight. But so far we haven't really seen anything from the Katarina other than soft losing, which doesn't fill me with too much confidence.
Yeah, soft losing, down about 30 CS at the moment, but always a threat is what I'd have to say, especially in the hands of this man. So I'm sure he's still got the faith that he knows what this champion can do, and it doesn't have to all be about him. Nice little hook there by ML, just teasing on towards Praetor. As we originally started that with BioPanther being forced to TP topside because Winter is getting a lot of value whilst these plates still remain.
Praetor, of course, knowing that something's up.
Oh!
Ooh.
A flash went out and Stolt actually hit the flash but went nowhere. Animation cancelling is beautiful. And now they had to try and turn this thing around. Equalizer goes out, more so as a zone. You shall not pass. And PGG won't.
I mean, it was a nice play from Decoy. Hits the flash hook. They find the correct target as well in Sybil, but Stopwatch is there, and you know they are able to get themselves out alive. Summoner spells have to be used. That was 3 flashes on the side of Legacy from all 3 members in the skirmish, which is still a win overall for the side of Pentanet.gg, you know, being able to keep 2 of the flashes of their own cleanse there. And We saw the potential damage that can come out of a Diana. The Proto Belt and the ultimate, unfortunately for them, was the exact amount of damage that got stopwatched by Sybil and keeps him alive. So well done by Legacy to disengage. The cost was high, however.
Certainly was. A lot of flash burns in crucial areas. Free to be specific, so it's a fair cost to have to pay there, but it means that Decoy knows what he's about. Looking for those engage angles, and as you can see on your screen there, that was Stard's last time he played this Varus, only a week ago. As we go into the Cursed Pools, 14 minutes into this one, what does it mean? What is happening here today? Because it starts with Legacy up by 4,000 gold. And I'm sure they'll want to continue playing as they're in the zone, in the momentum of things, and not get too disrupted by this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this pause will be hopefully it's not a long pause, first of all, but it shouldn't be too big of a tilting thing for Legacy. I don't think it'll throw them by any means the way the game's been going so far. I think they're pretty happy with it. That 4,000 gold lead is sizable. They also, weathered the first real attempt from the side of PGG to force on them as well. So showing a lot of promise with the way they've been playing it so far. And Skimmy, if ever there was a team to ruin my perfect predictions, it had to be, it'd be PGG that'd do it. Let's just say that much.
Could happen. It certainly could happen. We've seen strange things happen before, right? So this is once again one of those tests where Pentanet are saying we want to try and be creative, be inventive, be idealistic of knowing what else we can do. But it means that you're going to be put into situations like this where you are going to have to play from behind if you're not too familiar with it, right? So as much as there's a burden on them to perform and hold out and do what they do best, it's still the burden of execution on towards Legacy.
Do you know they tweeted at me yesterday and said they're going to lose just to get my tips wrong?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did. I'm getting real sick of him,
Good old
honestly.
Winston. There's the barrel. That's going to knock him out from the rest of his team. No protection can be found. You can't lantern yourself out to safety. He's going to fall on down. And that's the first kill Pentanet found.
Yeah, I think they just catch Emelg a couple of seconds out of position. Was trying to get around to the rest of his team, but the hooks are on. They find the opportunity and they do get themselves a kill. And, the 4,000 gold, we'll see if it continues to build. It's down to 3 or if it dwindles. Right now, you can see Incurzio's looking at Chaz and saying, this is not a fight I want to take ever. Might go and try and sneak a Scuttle Crab, perhaps, which will take him quite a while. Nevertheless, you've got control in your side lane. You're playing towards Biopanther on this Gragas, but you're getting the kills on that side of the map as well. But really, it's going fine.
Certainly is. I mean, I don't feel too pressured by this at this stage, but Pabu is now sneaking himself into mid lane. There's a flash dash and hit the ultimate to try and just one-shot Styles, who hit the chains and it went nowhere. But a trusty support always backs up his boys, and he's there with a lantern for safety.
Yeah, the Proto Belt just sneaks him underneath the chains of corruption, right? Just puts him basically on top of the hitbox of Styled himself. So not going to lock him down. Of course, the lantern being there, something that we mentioned in draft as well. The fact that you've got Varus, it's enabled usually by the champions that you get to pick with it, whether it's Tahm Kench or whether it's Thresh. You just want to make sure that there's that point of safety. No matter how much damage Pabu was able to do, if it's not a one hit, then he's going to have the lantern. He's going to be rescued by Emelg and get himself out with his life, albeit barely.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Another turret falls down. That's in favor of Legacy. Elsewhere, 2 plays at once. They're going to pick up the second dragon, or their first dragon, I should say. And Pentanet were potentially collapsing on towards Winter as he was rotating down through topside river. They realize that chance has been missed. He's going to be a different version of the Varus here from Styled here today. He played the Lethality last time around, Halo Blades, but he's going to go for the full on-hit build.
Yep.
Lethal Tempo, Kraken Slayer.
Frosts has inspired him.
Must have.
Saw the Mechanics Max coming out of the Space Glider of Mammoth and decided that he's going to do that for himself. No, just gone for more of the on-hit build this time around. He's got a lot of melee champions that he could hit, and his comp also has a Jace in it. So usually when you pick the Varus, if you have a bunch of magic damage in your comp, then you would often say, well, lethality is just value, right? It's going to do so much more damage. They're not going to build any armor. But already, because you've got a Jace against the tank in top lane, you've got a Nautilus bot lane as well. If you build lethality, then you're probably not going to do too much damage at all.
Sure.
So goes for the lethal tempo, knows that, of course, through draft in the first place, and is able to pick that one up. And we'll see how it goes in team fights, because, again, the same logic that I use, Skimmy, for the Katarina also does kind of exist for the Varus when it comes to team fighting, because you're a pretty low-ranged AD carry that wants to be attacking fast and kiting in team fights, but they have a lot of tools in close proximity to win team fights against you, so it is super risky.
Yeah, it is, because you're going to be very much on the ball, right? You don't have a Tom Kench to try and get you out of harm's way, right? You don't have a cleanse at this stage. You know, you're really hoping that if your flash is not up, that you're not the one to get caught out of position. So it's a situation, as you say, where it feels nice to have an auto attacker, don't get me wrong, right? You don't want two range mages, if you will, just poking from afar and saying, all right, Incursio, like, go get the pentakill like a solo queue game. But definitely has to be very careful when he does decide to step up, right? Because we saw already what Pabu can do when the Flash Protobot is available. He alone can probably just take you out.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be enough damage coming out of him. It's scaling damage as well for the Diana, and had already bridged that point of what you could say is weakness, right? Got to level 6 really fast, passed very well, Mr. Pabu, and got towards the first big item spike. So he's going to be an absolute weapon running around, able to assassinate everybody.
Yeah.
And I think once we start getting to those front-to-back team fights, the question for me is how Legacy will try to contest them. Because, again, you've got a Rumble Equalizer, right, which is a pretty significant factor. Let's just say it's going to happen around Drake, right? Already
Sure.
got two very early Drake secured by PGG, so they're threatening the soul. You put the Equalizer down, you've got a Thresh Hook and a Varus ultimate, yes, but that's not really enough to win a team fight. That's enough to maybe start a team fight. It's about, like, how does a Katarina get in, right? Is there a flank angle? Does the Jace get to poke beforehand? Because that's all easier said than done, and increases the difficulty of execution for what you would say is the worst team.
Yes, a little bit distracted there, obviously, by the stop-start nature of this game, as we've got another disconnect here. So we'll wait for them to get themselves back into the fray of things and continue this game to figure out really what the end result of this will be, because as it stands, Legacy 0-3 to start off split number 2, but they're coming into this one with a bang. They look almost revitalized, like they've just gone on a holiday, had a spa, maybe a massage, and they've said, all right, you know, we know how to play League of Legends, we know how to bring it to the best team in Pentnet, and we're not going to be too upset by them. So they're on the back foot right now. They've DC'd from the game, but they must be back and ready to rock and roll again, because we're back in
The
18-minute mark.
Power spike, hey?
Absolutely, mate. Surely, hey, it's an OP buff, yeah?
That's why Pentnet were able to take out C9 in Iceland, right?
True.
They went to the Blue Lagoon.
It's true.
The power up was unbelievable.
What happens now, though? That is the question. You theorized what it could look like in terms of a contest for a dragon, be it a Baron, either or. But is there an argument to be made as to which team would prefer to be set up and deployed to start it off? Because in terms of like retake potential, sure, you can talk about the Shock Blast, Equalizer, Varasalt, and so on, but
Yeah. I mean, you want Pentnet to be hitting the objective in a way that you can poke them down to start with, right? For sure. So I think you do kind of play for the retake, or if you get the vision control first, then like because playing to like take back the river and get an objective is just innately risky.
sure.
You realistically should just have vision control first, so that you can use that to get picks and poke, because, you know, Varus Thresh, very good pick potential. And then make them come to you in a 4v5 perhaps, or just with a health bar disadvantage where your champions get free reign of dealing damage.
And they're dealing a lot of damage right now, aren't they? Because they TP'd into mid lane, exposing the fact that Pentnet are separated. Out goes the ultimate, and Mel caught out of position.
Oh,
he has to flash away. A massive cast from Bio to separate the members of Legacy. And out comes the Haymaker that instantly takes out two. And Incursio somehow survives with the potion ticking. Nobody from Pentnet dead, but Legacy, two members have fallen down.
Yeah, I mean, Legacy have some vision control to protect them there as well. 3 different control wards placed around the tower that they were pushing, but they still get flanked by multiple members of Bentonet.gg. They get the kills, very well executed by PGG as well. The turret falls in mid lane afterwards, and any kind of advantages that you'd think Legacy have had are just being completely dissipated. You know, it's a good teleport. Why even play around vision when you can just teleport into the fight? Both of them, of course, come in there as well. The true damage hits. Almost takes down Incursio with it. huge play from Biopanther and Chaz.
Unbelievable flank. It was almost as if they felt insulted, perhaps even disrespected that Legacy were going to deploy on the map, abuse the fact that they had tempo in mid lane just to try and take not only one, but potentially 2 different turrets in one swift action. And that is why Pentanet are so good right there. Vision or not, they sneak out of control, go into the fog of war, as you say. Both members come in at the same time, just cause a whole bunch of headaches.
They most definitely do, and it's gold in the right hands as well here. You know, less and less relevant will be the Jace trading in side lanes if Biopanther's getting some money. The Ezreal already has his Divine Sunderer and is close to the Muramana. He's already at 360 mana stacked on that tier, and already has 2 components of the item. Dyna also has 2 full items completed, Zhonya's Hourglass and Proto Belt. So team fighting is going to be a dream right now for Pabu.
Yeah.
It's Chaz getting that extra money will make him just completely unstoppable. And still, yet to really see anything. I think we are still left wanting for something from a Katarina, which is clearly a bait pick, and it is clearly a trap pick, but he's a one trick, right? So you're expecting the magic. We're all here expecting the magic to happen.
Yeah, whilst he's picked up the assist from very early on into this game, we're yet to really see the true impact of this champion. And it almost feels like, as you say, a bait pick, a one-trick pick, all the rest of the terms that could be thrown his way. It's one of those picks that, if it gets one good team fight, you almost say it feels justified, feels valued for what it can offer.
Yeah, I mean, you get that Katarina Penta, I will not say anything else about the pick being a bait. But until such a time, it is a bait. And I'll say that every time the game starts. Like, I'm not going to say that forever. You pick Katarina, you are innately picking a riskier decision. You pick Jace top. It's the exact same thing. Once again, I think Legacy, looking at the execution, the difficulty of execution on their composition is definitely risky to go up against one of the best teams in our league, our MSI representatives, in team fighting when they've drafted a team fighting comp.
Certainly is, and goes back to your other point, which was always able to keep tabs on what CC you have available to try and interrupt him, because that goes to equalize once again, and Kirsten looking to try and force that fight. He's still got the Ignite, but went to try and solo kill a Praetor. Chaz will fall for his sins, and now that means, for 40 seconds, no TP to rejoin. Legacy gonna go straight towards the Baron.
Nice play there from Legacy. Again, high range on their engaged potential, but right now, no Varus ultimate, no Rumble ultimate. And Thresh going to have to hit those hooks to be the only form of crowd control they really have before Jace uses melee form to smash someone away. You can see that Pentanet playing with a little bit of confidence still, with all that in mind.
Legacy literally not even going to start this Baron right now. They just want the potential idea of that being looked at to force out some ultimates and some ideas from Pentanet. True Shot Barrage tells them that there's no need to panic just yet, that Chaz can just respawn and run it straight back through to mid lane to regroup. There was that moment when Incursio was looking just to hit him with the one shot, and it's just the worst nightmare of an AD carry.
Definitely is, especially an AD carry that has no real resistances. However, Skibby, Divine Sunderer gives health as its mythic passive. You can build magic resistance as an Ezreal as well. You've got Zhonya's on the other squishy member on the team in the Dyna. So there's definitely a world where Incursio does absolutely 0 damage. We're not at that point. We could be soon. But I say it's unlikely. Magic resistance is the least likely resistance type for this Ezreal build to want to actually pick up.
Well, talk to me about resistances here, Rusty, because I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, looking at a Nautilus with a Zhonya's.
You definitely are. That's a Nautilus with the Zhonya's rushed.
Very interesting.
I mean, that is... In the same way that you could be against a Viego as you are with a Katarina, you're avoiding resets. This allows you... This is actually like the Jarvan support build. If you... And I don't know why I'm saying that as if people are more familiar with Jarvan support than Nautilus.
Hey, it inspired Elfish to play it, right?
But Jarvan support builds Zhonya's first because it lets him engage every single time. So Nautilus's biggest risk is that he's a squishy champion when there's no aftershock. But now you can just throw pot shots. If it hits, and if you are too squishy and you're going to give Katarina a free reset, well, you've got to get out of jail free item in the Zhonya's. This does still make you squishy though, because it's not going to be health that you're building. It is just the active. It's an interesting choice from Decoy.
Yeah, it certainly is. I thought I'd bring it to your attention. Maybe a few AP ratios that we could talk about, but for the most part, I'm sure it's not for the damage. It's all about, as you say, if he's going to go in and Aftershock expires, not to be one to doom his team with a shumpoing Katarina to deal with after.
Also, the Abyssal Mask picked up by Biopanther, so he's going to be wanting the team fight without a doubt. And also, with 2 minutes until the Drake, we'll let this trade happen. Actually, teleports are coming in. Some could say needlessly. The trade fizzles. The point that I wanted to bring up, even regards to items, Skimmy, is that the Elixir is there, so they want to win the next fight.
Certainly do. They're banking a lot of their money on towards this one. Down by 2.5k so far, but they're looking for a fight with Inkursu, just dead and gone. He tries to Shumpo away, but the Pixel Perfect nature does not seem to be a difference maker. Biopanther is the trader, 1-for-1 so far, but now it's the case of the AD carries trying to pop off and be the difference maker. Can they find their kills? Fighting around enemy red buff as Legacy look to disengage away. And it's a 2-for-2. And it's the Legacy, it's the ADCs on either ends that seem to be the biggest benefactors.
Yeah, so I believe Pabu dies without even using the Zonias there. They did use a lot of flashes. Ultimates have been burned to left, right, and center also. Incursio not actually playing League of Legends yet, but with the Drake up in 50 seconds, he'll have an opportunity to start. And at the same time, Pabu, after dying without using the Zonias, will go back to base and buy a stopwatch with his Zonia's Hourglass. So the man wants to be gold like he wouldn't believe, and a good Ezreal ultimate there as well, just quietly.
Much damage it did.
This is the difference between a lethality Varus and a non-hit Varus. It's really hard to actually expect that much damage to come out, and of course Winter doing as much as he can at the same time. So Pabu perhaps just unprepared, and will be a difference maker there to allow Legacy to take an even trade and walk away.
Rather to burn that flash now, so runs the risk of being very susceptible to the diving nature that Pentanet have. There goes Pabu, hits the Moonfall onto 2. The hook goes sideways, does not connect. Lands towards terrain instead, but just out of range, so won't be dragged on through. But good news for Pentanet, because they've done the damage, that's what they needed to. Top and Jungler Legacy very low, so that means they can guarantee themselves a Mountain Soul.
Yeah, they've done everything required, right? Pabu giveth, Pabu taketh away for the side of Legacy. It will just be a free secure on a Mountain Soul with no contest. Not even vision control really established or staunched away from PGG at the Baron buff either. You can see those two good control wards there now. And even free as a trio, you know, Decoy, Praedyth, and Chaz to walk up there and just put the wards down as Legacy reset. That is a legitimately free objective secured. And Skippy, we spoke about it being pretty difficult to buy magic resistance for this Ezreal build. Not exactly true when more of Malmortia scales with your total health value and Divine Sunderer gives health.
Sure.
Just chucking that one out there. This is a tank Ezreal, just for everyone now looking at it.
Yep, Blue Ezreal well and truly back in the fold of things, and whilst we don't really see the Hex Drinker too often, it's going to find a fair bit of value this time around. A Blast Cone denied that from Pentanet, as the Baron this time will be looked upon seriously. Down to 30%, burning by the second tier as Pentanet once again looks to try and mount an assault. He sidesteps that, does Chaz. He jumps into the Baron pit. The Baron is low down to 2k, getting closer and closer to smite range. But the fight continues, a 1-for-1 so far, but Pabu finds himself another kill. Does remove Inkursu, so the Katarina resets are no longer a concern. And Chaz is low. The Baron has been stolen away from him. And styled. He can't start on his opponent on this occasion. They're going to fall apart. And that may just be a delayed ace, unless Winterer can pull a rabbit out of a hat. He can't. The shutdown. And our first ace of the game.
Yeah, no miracles today. Biopanther just throws a celebratory cask at the dead Baron pit after they win the team fight. They secure the Baron as well. Just as you'd expect, Pabu turns very gold in that as well and is able to secure the objective easily. Legacy, remember that before that fight started, they were 2,000 gold ahead. But they are the ones who feel this need to make the play. Time after time, Nautilus Hook goes wide, they look for Chaz, but he just straight up ults, Sybil into the pit. Turn gold for as long as you like. Decoy's doing the same with his Zonia's Hourglass Dark technology, and so's Pabu. It becomes a game of time, and who could buy the most time, and PGG just have way too many Zonia's Hourglasses to activate to buy that time.
Yeah.
Praedyth gets into the mix and just melee against Gleam, or Emelg, rather. And it's just a tank, right? So he's going to be impossible to take down, try as the Varus might. And same thing applies here for Winterer on the Varus. And you can see the damage in that last fight. Not a lot for the cat.
Yes. it just felt to me like the target selection from Penta there was perfect, right? You know, instantly remove the jungler, so there's no need to worry about a jungle smite steal. Take out Incursio and just run it back because no time to reflect. We're all about the future and the present right now. Firepamper just going to hit that ultimate. He just does not miss. Target selection has been perfect. It's going to be another double kill for Parbu, and it's a classic sort of PGG performance. 30 minutes and they're well and truly back in the driving seat.
Meanwhile, side laning, the Incursio hunts for and in the turret, while PGG are just kind of winning team fights back to back, taking structures now as well, quite easily overall. As after that last team fight, the Maw of Malmortius and the Frozen Heart were purchased by Praedyth, who I honestly believe might be able to win the game by himself. That's how strong he currently is. And that's not even to say that anyone else on his team's weak. He's just way too strong. You've got a 4-1 Diana backing you up as well.
Yeah, it just feels like flashbacks to when you saw it last season. 250 armor, literally can't die. Death Stance with the resets and all the health back too. Could be fun times for them to deal with. That's the Parbu you're mentioning, and here he is on hot pursuit once again. Looking to try and lock in place King Cursio. He can't do much. The stopwatch is broken, as Zhonya's is not complete. And his impact on this game has just not been found.
Can we see total damage dealt so far in this game? Is that a thing that we could bring up? I really am interested. Because I don't think we've seen too much from him besides being relegated to side lane duty. And it is one of those moments where you would say other champions could be infinitely more impactful when you had a winning topside with a big Jace and a big Rumble run around the rift. But nevertheless, here we go again. The attempt is on.
Star's going to flash him forward, hits the ultimate, locks in place decoy. Now there's the Valley from the active portion of the Zhonyas, flashes away to safety. And now everybody just going to light up like a trophy going golden, looking to try and turn around things. Hooks goes out, re-engage is found, Pentiment looking for the fight, and Chaz just slam bam, thank you man. Pretty much just taking down 2 people on the heartbeat like that. It's easy pickings here for Pentiment. Late game scaling well and truly online, 17 kills to 9. Inhibitor soon to fall. And they may, Rusty, just look to end the game.
Yeah, they're definitely hunting for it. Bio takes no damage, engages are there, and they really want to try and get those kills beforehand.
Look at that, the Depth Lotus literally went off for half a second before it evaporated himself into oblivion, dead back in the fountain. A second ace. And another chance of Pensnet to pick up an all-important victory.
And all smiles you would expect from the PGG camp. Biopanther tanking about 38 turret shots there, as well as they allow the Nexus to die to the minions. And the Zhonya's Hourglass Nautilus just proves to be a little bit too strong. Of course, we've got the damage of the last team fight coming up as the Nexus dies. Unfortunately, that last team fight doesn't matter too much anymore. An easy win in the end, honestly, for the side of PGG. Dicey early, right? Definitely a lot of strength bottom lane. Once again, Decoy, remember in the interview saying he doesn't want to int Skimmy. I won't say he inted, but they were targeted pretty heavily and quite successfully by Legacy.
Yeah, certainly were targeted. They had a clear game plan in mind of, you know, you can win the early, but we're going to look to always go for that mid to late. And once the Dragon Soul felt secured, it felt like a lot of that damage portion had just been forgotten about, right? So we'll bring Mac back into the fold of things. You see another Katarina, you're you know, instantly hyped, you're happy, you're keen to see it. But I think, if anything, it must feel so good, right, to give away a pocket pick like that and then just make it have zero impact.
Yeah, they played it perfectly. And, you know, Rusty did mention all of the aspects of why the Katarina wasn't going to work. And we were sort of waiting for it to happen. And then it just never got the opportunity, and it never really did what happened last time. So PGG really just playing their A game, countering everything that they could, and countering the key piece of the puzzle that Legacy tried to pick around. Didn't quite work out, and look, Winter still had a pretty damn good job, pretty damn good game rather, up in the top lane. But other than that, it was a bit all over the place for Legacy after that 15 sort of minute mark, when you can see PGG coming back into the game here. Yes, it looked like Legacy were off to an immaculate start, and they still had a gold lead at this point as well before the Baron fight, but then PGG turned it around from here, and it was downhill and easy pickings from this point. Game only lasted another 4 minutes, and I think they got another almost 10 kills from here. So that was a whole bloody action-packed end to the game. And this comes back to the point that we brought up multiple times now for Legacy is, yes, they have such strong starts to their games, but then they just get lost in the mid-game, they get lost in the end game, and then they just don't convert it into wins. And it's so unfortunate to see, because You want to see this team that has had such a rough trip through the DoorDash LCO, through the LCO last split as well, succeed more, because they're the ones experimenting. They're the ones doing some crazy, crazy things in terms of the draft, in terms of trying to be creative with their choices. But PGG just shut them down, and I think that was expected at the end of the day. Also, shout outs to Twitch chat for getting my prediction correct. Congratulations, me. Woo! Thanks, chat. Thanks, chat.
That was a real tough one to predict there. Thank you, Twitch chat. Never doubted them, except for the first 5 minutes of that one. Hey, Mac. It was just a little bit dicey in there, and of course you can see the damage dealt here. That was the one thing I was curious about. 7k, more than I actually thought, but at the same time, you've got just a meatball, right, that you're hitting in lane and inside lanes in the set that just takes the damage.
Yeah.
So I guess that does pad it a little bit. And my takeaway from this game, Ezreal, real pain. Just so annoying.
Yeah, very annoying. Why?
Because he has a dash that's like a 5-second cooldown that's lower if you hit skill shots, so you're actually just rewarded with infinite dashes. Okay. You're a tank who deals percentage health damage because of Divine Sundera and Muramana, right? So it's cheap, it's efficient, you're a tank and you're a damage dealer, you're an assassin and a frontliner, and you've got too much mobility for anyone else to, like, it's so gross, and it needs to be, Divine Sundera needs to go.
Okay.
I hate that item. Oh.
Is that because you like to play tanky supports? Hey, no, you get back in here. You get back in here.
Like
Hey?
fixing my necklace. I'm like laughing at Rusty's like, I hate it. And I'm like, whoa, that's a strong word for a, I only seen you hate two things, Yuumi players and Yuumi players. So
both true. And I stand by those as well, but we could just add Divine Sundera to the mix.
There you
now
go.
I know three things.
So, do you have any Divine Sundera users down for the interview on the side lanes there now?
I do have a divine person with me, and that's going to be Pabu is joining me for the post game. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the win. I want to start with the cat, letting the cat through. What was the thoughts behind that? Why'd you guys let it happen?
The champion doesn't actually do anything. Like, it's not a good laner. It's not good at roaming. It doesn't get the priority. It doesn't team fight well. It like resets off of morons, but fortunately we have 5, human beings and not 5 solo queue players, so it never really does anything. We have like infinite lockdown in that game. Like, he needs to pop off, right? But then he has to pop off through like Diana ulti, body slam, Gragas cask, like set E, set R, Nautilus Q, Nautilus R. There's just like so many tools that make his champion literally impossible to play. Like, if that was a solo queue game and he picked that, I would dodge. I would refuse to play that game. It's like not winnable. So like, if he wants to play it, he can play it for sure, but as you saw, he had no impact.
Yeah, it did look a little bit rough for him. When I was speaking to Decoy earlier for the pre-game interview, he said, the laning phase is something you guys really have to work on. I think early game as a whole really struggled for you guys, but why do you think specifically this game it was so hard for you?
Well, they have powerful champions, right? Rumble is pretty much stronger than Diana early game. Like, Diana trades it for team fighting and like ability to engage. And Varus Thresh is also extremely powerful in the laning phase, while Ezreal, scales into the mid game, hits the 2-item spike, is impossible to kill later on. And Nautilus is a bit more of like, he doesn't lane that well into Thresh, but you can kill the Thresh. So if you don't proactively make like these, gank plays and link up with your jungler, it can be hard to play the game. And so, if we aren't making proactive plays and we're not, syncing up properly with where I am and where Danny is, it's going to be like a bit of a laning phase beatdown. And same with Jace. Jace kind of like beats on Gragas as well, but Gragas can like neutralize, not lose too hard, and then teamfight very well. So our composition was definitely more indexed towards like scaling and not losing too hard and then fighting later on. But we also had the tools to make plays, and we didn't abuse it enough to make the lane phase not really bad.
Speaking of plays, what play do you think was the turnaround point for you guys? At what point were you like, yeah, we're definitely scaling, they have no way back into this game?
Pretty much every team fight like feels very good. So any time that we can get out of like the lane states and like get into anything that's formed up, anything that there's like 3 to 4 players at is just almost instantly won. The Thresh is so weak in a lot of these scenarios. Like Nautilus is just it's so easy. Like Nautilus, Diana, Gragas, you guys just slam your head. Same with Set as well. You just kind of go, and it's so hard to disengage. So I feel like any fight that we actually took that was on our terms, it wasn't us, either getting outlaned or having like a poor map play or anything like that that led to us getting dove. Like those kind of things, or where they could actually play the game. But whenever we were grouped up and we had even numbers or more numbers, it was impossible for them to play.
Were there any like team fights or fights that happened at all where you were that little bit worried? I saw Chaz go down a few times in mid, so was that worrying for you?
Not really. It's really hard for them to start Baron in front of Ezreal, so getting picked once isn't the worst. If only one person dies, it's still really hard for them to force because they don't have any engage. All they have is poke. But like probably the first like 10 minutes, once you get past the first 10 minutes, as soon as I get to like Protobelt and Stopwatch and level 11, as soon as Ezreal finishes Mirror Mana, all of these like key item spikes come online and the game just becomes really hard for them to play. So probably the first 10 minutes was like the most worrying because they have really good tools to play out the early game, but after that it's quite simple for us to play.
Okay, I'm going to ask my last question because I'm afraid Mac's going to ask me when I get back there and I'm not going to have an answer. But if you had to give someone the DoorDash player that delivered, who would you pick? And I'm just going to steal your answer and tell him.
I would give it to Incursio by delivering us free win by picking Katarina.
Well, I'll write that one down, but thank you so much for joining me for the post-game interview and congratulations again on the win.
Thanks, Nat.
Well, I love that answer. And
Wow.
maybe we should start giving the DoorDash player that delivered to the player that might have made the most mistakes or made the game a little bit easier for the opposing team. Because it does make sense, doesn't it?
I mean, he's already given them a feed, so it definitely works. But I would rather not. I would rather not condone bad play.
True. Very true.
Possible.
You just don't want to see Cat again. That's the real reason you're not
Anything
going
to do with the word cat, Nat, it's correct.
Oh, yeah. I see the connection. I'm really slow.
Well,
There you go.
ladies and gentlemen, it was not, in fact, Incursio that was the player that delivered. It was the man on your screen, Pabu. He has taken home that $100 DoorDash voucher for the DoorDash player that delivered with a spectacular game in the jungle. 5-1-7, doing everything that needed to be done there on the Diana. 63% kill participation, which is correct now, by the way, and 12 wards placed. So more wards than the previous game. Game, of course, went a little bit longer than before. Any thoughts on this one, boys?
Wards equal wins. It's just as easy as that, right? You know?
Yep.
You get vision, you can make plays. We saw how often that happened, right? It was Legacy with a huge lead. They had vision to push down mid. One ward out of vision catches them off guard, synchronized TPs, instantly a flank that they just had no idea how to deal with.
You know what else I don't like? Because that's got me started now.
Oh!
Oh.
Got the old man rambling.
What don't you like?
Goose eggs. If someone comes into a game of League and they buy 0 control wards, it's goose egg, right? It's big fat
Yeah,
zero.
big fat zero.
Hate it. Hate them.
Yep.
Ah.
Well, going off of what Rusty hates and back onto Pabu, I reckon he's going to be sliding into Juve's DMs again and being like, see, told you Diana was a good pick. I just got player that delivered with her.
It's true.
Well, I'll tell you what I hate. 4 talents sitting on your screen doing nothing, talking about nothing and goose eggs. So I'm going to put you onto a break and get you over towards the final game of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go too far. Enjoy this music from Warner. It is going to be Peace taking on Gravitas to round things out here on the DoorDash LCO.
Once again, looks to try and mantle the assault. He sidesteps that, does Chaz. He jumps into the Baron pit. The Baron is slowed down to 2k, getting closer and closer to smite range. But the fight continues, a 1-for-1 so far. But Pabu finds himself another kill. Does remove Incursio, so the Katarina resets are no longer a concern.